So, as has been said, I'm Director and Chief Executive of the Metal Packaging Manufacturers Association. We are a small team, but we look after all the manufacturers in the UK who make and supply metal packaging, and as well as all the operational stuff that we do for our members in terms of lobbying government and things like that, particularly with all the new legislation that's coming in around packaging. What we also have is we have various consumer-facing platforms to promote all the good news and all the good metrics to talk about metal packaging. And the three are Canned Foods UK, which promotes the use of canned food, which I'm going to be talking about today. Can Makers, which actually promotes the use of beverage cans, aluminium beverage cans typically, and then Do It With Cans, which promotes the use of craft and DIY products that are packed in metal packaging. And although it's about the products, it's also about talking about the metal and how useful metal packaging is. And obviously today, the whole thing is around food, food security and nutrition and things like that. And so we've actually got some very good things to say about canned food. With regards to Canned Foods UK, we tend to try and work with a celebrity chef or cook to help us promote Canned Foods UK. And I'm actually delighted to say that the chef that we're working with at the moment is a gentleman by the name of Theo Michaels, who you may recognize from Steph's Packed Lunch on the telly. And I've got an introduction actually from Theo to for him to share with you. But Theo is a very, very excellent chap and has got a lot of experience, has published many books. And well, I'll leave you to leave him to introduce the presentation himself.
Thank you, Robert, for that introduction. I'm Theo Michaels, chef, author, and a huge advocate of using canned food as part of our staple diet. The canning process to preserve food has been around for centuries, and today it's more important than ever. Being able to lock in the nutrients and vitamins of fresh ingredients at the height of their ripeness for use in months or even years later in packaging that's 100% recyclable is incredible. It helps cut down on food waste. It offers a really cost-effective means for families and individuals to supplement their dinners with canned ingredients. I'm a massive fan of using canned ingredients, as you know. I've even wrote a book on the subject. Shameless plug. Anyway, I'll leave you with that thought, and I hope you enjoy exploring the use of canned foods as much as I do. Thanks very much.
So there we go. I can go home really now, can't I? Because Theo's pretty much said, Theo's pretty much said it all. I can also actually highly recommend the book. It's extremely good and makes some very, very good recipes. So talking about food cans. So food cans are predominantly made from tin plate, which is mild steel electrolytically coated on both surfaces or either surface with pure tin. Now, some food cans, typically for packing fish, can be made from drawn aluminium, but the majority of food cans that you see in the shops are tin plate. So they're either made from a drawn body and a top component, or there'll be a welded body and a separate top and bottom component. And in the sector, we refer to them as 2-piece and 3-piece cans. We are very literal beasts on things like that. So we tend to talk about it how it is. So many foodstuffs can be packed directly in uncoated tin plate containers, while others require the tin plate's inner surface to be coated with a thin polymeric protective coating. As I'm sure you know, many food cans are now fitted with full aperture easy open ends for convenience. Now, canned food is actually cooked in the can after the can has been sealed. It is cooked under steam pressure at around between 116 and 121 degrees C, which is sufficient to kill any microorganisms present. Now, the cooking time varies depending upon the product concerned, harder products will have a longer cooking time than softer products. Now, as a consequence of this cooking in the can, canned food rarely requires preservatives as part of its ingredients list. In addition, cooking after the can is sealed affords canned food exceptionally long shelf life, with the nutritional value being locked in throughout that shelf life. The other benefits of canning plants are typically located close to the point of harvest. Thus, the food is packed when both the flavor and nutritional value are at their greatest. Now, as I'm sure you know, as food ages, its nutritional value reduces. But since canneries are located close to the point of harvest, few, if any, nutrients are lost in transit. Now, the canning process itself can slightly reduce the amount of some of the more soluble vitamins, such as vitamin C, but in other cases, the nutrient profile of food is actually enhanced. So, for example, canned pumpkin contains 540% of the RDI of vitamin A, while the same amount of fresh pumpkin only has 26%. Don't ask me why, it just seems to be the case. Other foods like canned beans have higher fiber content than their fresh counterparts, and canned tomatoes contain significantly higher levels of lycopene, an essential phytonutrient, than fresh tomatoes. And in fact, many well-known cooks and chefs, as Theo, are now openly advocating the use of canned food, and there are many canned food cookbooks available. There's also another advantage about using cans. Metal packaging, like all metal, is infinitely recyclable. It's easy to extract from the waste stream, and all the metal collected is reused to make new metal products. As a consequence, metal packaging has the highest recycling rate across Europe of any packaging format. And it's been estimated that something around 80% of all the metal that has ever been produced is still available for use today. Now, this concept of infinite recyclability has been covered in a video that we produced, which I'd like to share with you now.
What goes around comes around. Like metal, the most recycled packaging material, contributing to the circular economy. Simply collected and recycled again and again with no loss of quality. In fact, up to 80% of all metal ever produced is still available to use. And now, metal has been classified as permanently available material. Because when a metal product reaches the end of its useful life, the material is never lost. Through recycling, its value is retained forever, including much of the energy and emissions originally used to produce it. The metal packaging industry is the perfect example of a circular economy, recycling forever in a permanent material-to-material loop. What goes?
So there you have it. The superior shelf life of packed food in cans also provides additional benefit, which is significantly reduced food waste. And today, global food waste is, I'm sure you all know, a very serious matter. And as a consequence, we put together a little video on that as well, which I'd like to share with you too.
Some 10 million tonnes of food and drink is wasted in the UK every year. 7 million tonnes coming from our homes. That's an awful lot of waste, and a lot of money too. About £17 billion a year, they reckon. Nearly £500 a year from the average household, and £700 for a family with children. Using more cans can help reduce this waste, because canned food lasts way longer than food in most other packaging formats, helping reduce waste, locking in nutrients without the need for preservatives, and saving energy too. No fridge needed, in transit, in store or at home. We really do like cans.
And if you think about it, just think about your own homes and, you know, that guilty feeling after you've done the weekly shop and you go to the fridge and how many stuff that you've forgotten about in the back of the fridge that's now out of shelf life and you have to decide whether it's safe to eat or not. With cans, you've got a 3 to 5 year shelf life. So you can forget it. You can almost forget something for a year in the back of the cupboard, and it's still got a couple of years shelf life. So a very, very good way of avoiding food waste. And as you can see from the slide here, you know, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization have told us that around a third of all the food produced for human consumption every year, which is about 1.3 billion tons, gets lost or wasted. Now, this is extremely worrying in itself, but doubly so when you consider that the global population is likely to rise to 9.7 billion by 2050 from the current 7.9 billion. In addition, due to a range of factors, including global warming, it's anticipated that the planet could lose some 250 million crop acres by 2050. So if we want to avoid agriculture having to plough up more natural habitat, we've got to stop wasting food. Now, our sector, or one of our members, a company called Eviosis, although we were called Crown at the time, actually had some work commissioned by Delaware University in the United States to actually look at what the effect in America, in North America and Canada was of their current usage of food cans. And this was done at the consumer level, so in the home. And what they were interested in was the different ways in which you have food packed or fresh in the home. What was the different ways to the different levels of packing, and what was the difference with cans? And what the survey showed was that the current use of cans in the United States and Canada avoided the loss of 342.4 million litres of food a year. A staggering figure. And if you extrapolate that to how many food cans are sold globally every year, you end up to over 1 billion litres of food loss avoided every year. So although we're not suggesting for 1 minute that everything should be put in cans, the report did actually look into that and said, okay, well, let's say if the entire USA fruit and vegetable supply were canned, what would that do to food waste? And they estimated that it would save some 7 million metric tons of food, which would be the equivalent of saving some 22 million metric tons of CO2. So, as you can see, absolutely staggering numbers. And the main reason, well, several reasons why there's so much loss of waste or avoidance of waste. Shelf life is the biggest one. Obviously, the longer the shelf life, the far less likely the food is to be wasted before it's consumed. But also, if you think about canned products, you can consume everything in the can. There is nothing that is wasted, nothing to cut away. There's nothing to peel off. You just use it as it's canned. Misshapes and all those other sorts of things that are an issue for some people, they're used in canned food without anyone even noticing. So it's a very, very good way of avoiding food waste. The other thing, if you think about it, as one of the earlier presentations, or one of the animations said, cans don't need to be refrigerated. So as obviously this is a teachers' conference, I thought we'd put a bit of maths in. But in reality, it's just a very, very posh way of saying that if you're heating something up from 4 degrees to 90, it actually takes quite a lot more energy, 15.3% in fact, than if you're heating something up from 18 degrees to 90, so from like serving temperature. And if you think about it, if you've actually heating something up from the freezer, then you're heating it up from what, -18, -20, up to 90 degrees C. And so you'd be saving even more energy if you use canned food instead. So there's lots of reasons that cans can actually avoid waste. In this case, obviously, it's energy. So what do we do about it as the metal packaging sector? Well, we have this website, and here's the front screen of it, called Can Food UK. And as you can see, we've got a section, there's a home section, why cans, there's recipes. We have a blog about canned food, and there's a bit about us. There's several hundred recipes on there now in the recipe database. We also promote canned food on social media, and we have these sort of infographics of ways to use, just to remind consumers that actually canned food can be used in multiple ways, and there are certain cupboard staples that can be used in huge numbers of ways. And think about it, canned tomatoes and canned sweet corn being two very good examples. But the other thing we also found with Canned Food UK was that an enormous number of vegetarians and vegans are buying canned food, because there's all sorts of products that, for example, like banana blossom and jackfruit, that they can't get any other way. But also, if you want to use things like seeds and pulses and lentils and things like that, and chickpeas, of course, they all come pre-prepared. So you're not having to soak anything for 24 hours before you can use them. They're ready to use straight out of the tin. So in our database of recipes, and we have various booklets that you can see on our database, on our website, for people to share and to use. So here's just a screen of some of our recipes, and obviously, as Theo was kind enough to give me the opening video introduction, we've got some of his showing up here. And as you can see, the database, you can filter by course, you can filter by servings, meat, fish, vegetarian, vegan. And if you look at a recipe as well, so here's an example again from Theo. You have the ingredients list. We also include the nutritional information as well. And then you have the recipe itself, and there's various photographs as well. And we have a large following on social media for Canned Foods UK. And obviously, by working with the likes of Theo and other celebrity chefs, that helps us to grow the reach and help promote all the good stuff about canned food. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.